On this week's Tech 24, we're asking the question, which side is winning the war on the technology front, Ukraine or Russia? And here with some answers is technology editor Peter O'Brien. Hi there, Peter.
Hi, Charlie.
So how has the use of technology in Ukraine panned out? And is it what you expected?
Well, a few days before the invasion this time last year, I sort of weighed up both sides, the militaries of both sides, and looked at their technology and thoughts, tried to predict which would be more effective. And it's fair to say I didn't get everything right. I talked a lot about Russia's modernized air force and its vast army of tanks, but I wasn't expecting the air force to be mostly grounded, in fact, by these surface-to-air shoulder-mounted missiles that the Ukrainians have been using to great effect in these sort of small mobile units, like the Stinger, for instance. And I also wasn't expecting, I don't think many people were expecting Russia just to sort of launch large columns of tanks and other armored vehicles that just got sort of stuck in traffic at the start of the war. I also didn't foresee the effectiveness of drones, sort of commercial drones deployed by Ukraine, attached with sort of makeshift bombs. They've been wreaking havoc on Russian units. You can see one here. In fact, you can see the 3D printing was used to create this armament on the drone. And like many others, I also described Russia's electronics warfare as one of the best in the world. We knew it to be the case before Russia invaded Ukraine. But as it's panned out, Russia's had to resort to drone strikes, artillery, and other airstrikes to try and knock out Ukraine's communications capability, because its electronics expertise doesn't seem to have worked nearly as well in this war. And there were a few things that I sort of still stand by. So I did say that the less technologically advanced army is not always the one that loses. And I pointed to, for instance, Afghanistan, Vietnam. Obviously, we don't know the outcome of this yet, but Ukraine is doing far better than expected on the technology front. I also said Ukrainian morale, would be hard to whittle down, which is definitely the case. And finally, that Ukraine's allies would rally around it and supply weaponry and support, which they have.
Mm-hmm. But it's not just that supply of modern equipment going to Ukraine from the West that's tipping the balance. It's also Russia's lack of supply.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at what Ukraine has, they've got HIMARS, they've got Bayraktar drones, they've got NLAWs, Scan Eagles, even something like Starlink has proved to be really effective. It's got this wealth of foreign equipment, and importantly knows what to do with it. Also in recent weeks, of course, we've seen it start to be supplied with Western main battle tanks, and Ukraine is still asking for fighter jets and long-range missiles, which will be harder to train up for and provide logistics for. But Russia, meanwhile, has far fewer international suppliers. It's done quite well with the Iranian-made Shahed drones, and the German newspaper Der Spiegel broke the news on Thursday of talks between Russia and the Chinese drone manufacturer Xi'an Bingo, which China denies knowledge of. But other than that, Russia is really now dependent on its own war machine, which is problematic because we've seen lots of setbacks to its latest technology. This one, for instance, the Su-57 fighter jets, there are reportedly only a handful of them in operation, and they're likely only operating in Russian airspace for now because of the issues with that Russia's having in terms of not wanting them to be shot down by simple surface-to-air missiles. And there's also the T-14 Armata tank. There were supposed to be 2,300 of these by 2025 produced by Russia, but British intelligence found that there's only really tens of them, in the low tens of these T-14 Armata tanks in existence for now. There's also sanctions. I mean, more of which are to come from the US. Russia will need to now find replacements for Western components and for the technology talent that it's lost from people fleeing the war.
Now, you had mentioned the Ukrainian people's morale, which has really shocked most of the world. But is this another example of people and not technology winning wars?
Well, I don't think we can quite, we can't say who's going to win the war, of course, yet. But there is. as you say, this widespread mobilization and this sort of citizen participation in the war effort in Ukraine. And to give you a sort of tech example of this, we can look at this online chat service called Evorog, which was rolled out by the Ukrainian government. And this allows citizens to give the military intel about, for instance, the locations of Russian troops. This has been incorporated into a government app called Dia, which Ukrainian citizens use every day to access their official documents, their IDs, things like that. And now they can report on Russian troop positions because of it. So, from what I understand, public participation in this tool has been very advantageous to Ukrainian intelligence.
So, do you think that it's possible Russia could still have some game changers when it comes to tech up their sleeve?
Certainly. There is still the risk of Russia enabling its long-range missiles. A test of the RS-28 Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile reportedly failed this month, but they will keep trying. And there's also the hypersonic cruise missile, the Zircon, which arrived on a frigate in South Africa this week. Russia denies that it was planning to test it. And Russia, of course, has if you like, the ultimate technological advantage over Ukraine, in that it has the largest stockpile of nuclear warheads in the world, both tactical and, of course, the far larger strategic nuclear weapons as well. Vladimir Putin has repeatedly threatened to use these, and Russia, of course, as we've been saying, withdrew from a nuclear arms treaty on Wednesday. But who really knows how serious these threats are? This threat very much remains unknown.
Technology editor Peter O'Brien with our Tech 24 segment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.